Peppa approaches the bathroom mirror and notices that her reflection is smiling in a different way. Peppa's reflection waves its hand while real Peppa stands still and watches with great surprise. George plays in front of the living room mirror, but his reflection plays with different toys. Mummy Pig cooks breakfast while her mirror reflection prepares completely different food in the kitchen. Daddy Pig reads a newspaper, but his reflection reads a book and turns pages much faster. Peppa calls Mummy to come and look at the strange behavior of mirrors in their house. Mummy Pig approaches the mirror but sees only her usual reflection without any strange things happening. Peppa looks in the mirror again and the reflection sticks out its tongue and laughs loudly. George tries to touch the mirror, but the reflection moves its hand in a different direction. The family gathers at the dinner table and all mirrors show different versions of what happens. Peppa's reflection stands up from the table while real Peppa continues sitting and eating her meal. Daddy Pig notices that his reflection wears different clothes and looks much more serious than usual. Mummy Pig sees how her reflection cooks a different lunch in the mirror version of kitchen. George discovers that his dinosaur's reflection moves and roars in the mirror by itself without help. In the evening, the whole family stands before the big living room mirror and watches reflections. The family's reflections wave their hands and show that they live their own independent mirror lives. Peppa understands that the mirror world simply wants to show them alternative possibilities of their lives. Reflections smile and show the family different versions of what they could possibly become someday. The family waves to their reflections as a sign of friendship and understanding of mirror existence. Peppa falls asleep knowing that tomorrow mirrors will again show them amazing alternative mirror worlds.
The sunny day slowly faded. Peppa and George played in their room, their laughter echoing through the house. Everything seemed normal, but an odd tension lingered in the air. George, busy with his toy car, suddenly froze. His gaze locked onto the window, where tree shadows swayed in an eerie, unnatural rhythm. Peppa noticed his silence and came closer. "What's wrong, George?" she asked. He only shook his head, eyes fixed on the window. A strange sadness filled his expression. At dinner, George was unusually quiet. He barely touched his food and stared blankly at the table. "George, are you feeling okay?" Mummy Pig asked gently. He nodded slowly, his movements detached. Daddy Pig tried joking, but George didn't respond. That night, they lay in their bunk bed, George below, Peppa above. Peppa couldn't sleep. Strange sounds came from below, whispers she couldn't understand. Then a faint rustling sound, like something sliding across the floor. In the morning, Peppa awoke to silence. George's bed was empty. She searched the house, but he was gone. Mummy and Daddy Pig were worried. "George?" Mummy Pig called. No answer. The house felt hollow, as if something vital had disappeared. On the table lay George's toy car, faded and worn, its plastic dull and cracked. Days passed, but George didn't return. Peppa sat by the window, staring at the unmoving shadows outside. Mummy Pig sighed more often. Daddy Pig had gone quiet. Their skin grew pale, their faces tired and gray. The house, once full of laughter, echoed only with silence and unanswered questions. One evening, Peppa sat in her room. A familiar rustling sound came from beneath the bed. Her heart raced. She leaned over and looked underneath. Nothing but dust and old toys, until she saw it. A toy car, identical to George's. She picked it up. It was cold, unnaturally heavy, and rough to the touch, like stone. A chill ran down her spine. She turned toward the window and saw her reflection, but it wasn't her. The eyes staring back were hollow, the skin gray, lifeless. Her lips didn't move, but in her mind a whisper echoed, "Now you are with us." The house fell silent, and outside, the shadows continued their silent, endless dance. Forever. Evening came. Peppa Pig's house was full of the usual activity. Mummy Pig cooking dinner, Daddy Pig sorting papers, Peppa drawing, and George playing with dinosaurs. Suddenly, George went silent. He sat still, staring at one point, unresponsive to Peppa's voice. She moved closer, but he didn't react. His eyes were empty, as if seeing through her, through the walls, through everything. This wasn't like George. His skin grew pale, his pink fading. Peppa grew uneasy and called Mummy Pig, but wasn't heard. She shook George. He was stiff, almost stone-like. She shouted louder. Mummy Pig came and grew worried too. Daddy Pig joined them. George seemed trapped in a trance. His breathing was shallow and he felt weightless. The room turned cold, despite closed windows. Peppa shivered. George's eyes darkened. Mummy Pig hugged him, but he stayed cold. Daddy Pig suggested going to Dr. Elephant. Then George suddenly stood up. He slowly turned to Peppa, smiling unnaturally. It wasn't his smile. It was something alien. Peppa backed away. George walked toward her silently. Mummy and Daddy Pig tried to stop him, but he pushed them aside effortlessly. His strength was terrifying. Peppa tried to run, but her legs wouldn't move. George approached, eyes glowing with a cold, strange light. He reached out to her. She felt numb, paralyzed. He touched her. The world blurred. Colors faded. Sound vanished. Something inside Peppa began to dissolve. She was changing. The last thing she saw was George's eerie smile. She was no longer Peppa. She had become like him. Silence settled over the house. Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig stared at their children, both lifeless and hollow, eyes locked on nothing, faces pale and blank. They stood side by side like dolls. No one knew what had happened. No one knew what would come. There was no more laughter, only a cold, silent presence. And far beyond their world, something waited. It was just beginning. It wanted everyone, and it will, very soon. It's already close. It's already here. The morning in Peppa Pig's house began with an unusual silence. The sun barely penetrated the thick curtains, leaving the room in semi-darkness. George, usually sleeping on the bottom bunk, was motionless, and Peppa on top felt a strange numbness. Mummy Pig wasn't preparing breakfast. Daddy Pig wasn't reading the newspaper. The house was plunged into an unsettling quiet. Peppa came downstairs, her steps echoing in the empty hallway. She found her parents in the living room, sitting on the sofa, their gazes fixed on an old television broadcasting a strange show. Familiar faces of friends flashed across the screen. Susie Sheep, Pedro Pony, Rebecca Rabbit, but all of them were dressed in green tracksuits, and their faces expressed not childish delight, but eerie concentration. Beside them stood figures in red jumpsuits with black masks resembling guards. One of them, tall and slender, with a circle on his mask, turned to the camera. His voice, distorted by the speakers, said, "The game has begun." Peppa tried to call her parents, but they didn't react. Their eyes were empty, and their faces were frozen in indifference. She ran to the television trying to turn it off, but the buttons didn't work. The image on the screen became brighter, and Peppa saw Susie Sheep, usually so cheerful, performing some task with a stone face. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and Susie disappeared. Only a green splatter remained in her place. Peppa recoiled in horror. She looked at her parents again. Their bodies trembled slightly in sync with what was happening on the screen. but their facial expressions remained unchanged. Suddenly, George appeared in the doorway. He was also dressed in a green suit, and his eyes were as black as the guards on the screen. "You're next," he whispered in a voice that wasn't George's. Peppa ran. She burst out of the house, but the world outside was just as alien and distorted. The sky was crimson, and the trees seemed twisted and dead. In the distance, she saw a giant doll, similar to the one in the show. Its head slowly turned, and Peppa heard a familiar melody. She ran without looking back, but knew there was no escape. Cold permeated her body, displacing fear.